Agenda review for this. What is the date? 23rd of October, 2024. Can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. We will have invocation and the pledge. So these presentations all will take place, well, no, you say agenda review only. The strategic plan presentation?
Yes, sir. So again, that City U Class 3 graduation, they had their last class last night, and they will do their, an actual graduation ceremony. I don't know if we'll have pomp and circumstance, but we'll have 30 graduates in here to get their certificates on Monday. One of the things I wanted to do this evening, actually this was scheduled for the 2 weeks ago. We had a lot of discussion about our strategic plan when we adopted that, and how do we keep this from being what I call a spot, which is strategic plan on top shelf. We wanted to make it a living, breathing document that we're referencing as often as we can. So every month at your first agenda review, we're going to provide you a very brief, and I mean very brief, 10 minutes is our goal, just an update on some of the things that we're doing within the various strategic pillars. We will get through all 6 of our pillars with updates before we go back into a goal revisit session next April, and then we'll do those 6 again. So for the month of October, our first pillar that we just wanted to give you some updates, and this is just really some things that we are doing that tie back to that pillar that we think are important for the commission to know about. So this first month is on responsible government. And I'm going to have some of my staff help with this presentation this evening. Again, responsible government is all about managing our resources smartly, fairly, and with citizen input. And on your slide gives you an examples of some of those elements that are included within that. So that being said, I'm going to ask Katrina Hill to get us kicked off with some information on where we stand with our community feedback.
Good evening. Here we go. Sorry, I turned it off and forgot. So as you know, we launched a survey effort through our partnership with Zen City in 2023. So that survey has now completed its 3rd cycle. The exact same survey goes out every 6 months to the community, and it's a different respondents each time. It's still not really possible to identify solid trends yet, as this is the first time we have any year-over-year data, but we are starting to look at it and try to figure out what we can glean from the information. So on the graph in front of you, you'll see each of the areas that we review our scores on in each cycle, so it's each of our pillars and then an overall satisfaction. The green line is for the first survey, which was June of 2023. Blue is December 2023, and red is this most recent cycle, which was this summer, June of 2024. The yellow represents an average of all 3 periods. So I do want to touch on a few key points from this most recent cycle. Well, from every cycle, really. Each of the scores is calculated from a series of 3 to 5 questions that make up the score for that individual pillar. Most of the individual scores that you see continue to fluctuate up or down within what we call the margin of error, so 5 to 6% for this particular survey. But I do want to review those that fluctuated more largely than that. So starting with quality of life, community safety, and infrastructure, left to right on your screen, those all remain steady within the margin of error across the last 3 periods. In the area of responsible government, we saw the biggest drop with an overall drop of 12 points in that score. The biggest factor in that was a 22-point drop on questions asking citizens to rate the value for the taxes they pay to the city of Winter Haven. We recognize this data and some of the social listenings and some of the other engagements we've had. There's likely some misunderstanding about the city's budget and how all the different sources of revenue and how budgeting is done. CJ is going to touch in just a minute on a new tool that we're rolling out to try to help correct some of that perception. We also saw a 10-point drop in the transparency and communication to citizens from the City of Winter Haven government. The lowest scores were from the northwest and southeast quadrants. I will touch on some enhanced efforts in the area of reaching our city and making sure everyone is aware of what we're doing and feels that transparency in the next slide. In environmental stewardship, we also saw an 11-point drop in the rating of solid waste and recycling services. I'd venture to say, based on the timing, that that had to do with the county eliminating recycling services. We've done a lot of work in the last 2 months to make sure our citizens are aware that we're not doing that. I hope to see that one rebound. Our other noticeable change was a drop in 9 points in economic sustainability. This category saw a drop in questions related to the availability of jobs that pay a living wage and planning for and managing growth. So we know that growth is a hot topic right now, and we're working on another new public awareness campaign to help our citizens better understand what we can and what we sometimes cannot do in that area, to just try to further educate them. So it's not displayed on the screen, but our net promoter score, we did see a slight drop from 48 to 43. That was primarily driven in a 7-point drop in the question, how likely are you to recommend Winter Haven as a place to live? But this same group of respondents answered very highly to if they would be living in Winter Haven for 5 years from now. So that may be tied to that growth mentality if they don't want other people coming in. I do think it's important to note, though, that overall satisfaction, where we ask citizens how satisfied are they overall with the quality of life in Winter Haven, has stayed very high. So that stayed up at 93. So we'll continue to run this survey every 6 months. The next window will open in November with a report due to us in early 2025.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Do you have an age limit on, like, the living wage question, for example? Like a 17-year-old kid may not answer that the way a 25-year-old person. Do you have like an age
I think
cutoff for people? to answer
18.
these? You got to be 18?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How large is the sample, you say?
This particular sample, I don't have that in front of me. It's usually 600-700, I believe. I can get that information to you.
There are no other, like home ownership or anything like that? Nothing?
I have all those demographics. So we know race, we know male, female, we know age, we know which quadrant of the city they're in. It is verified that they're in city limits, and I do have the different income brackets, so we can break it down that way.
And on that survey, it's a valid survey, but it's just one of several tools that we're trying to use to help understand really what's the perception of the community and how effective are we in what we're doing. I think to really drill this down, and there's some cities that do this, and it's quite costly. You can do a full-on community survey and spend a few $100,000 to get that, where you're getting a pretty significant sample size and you're getting a variety of characteristics and metrics within that. I don't know that that's a necessary tool for us. I think we're really just trying to get a sense of what the community says, more so than we ever have, so we can be a little more aligned in how we're communicating and what we're educating on and where we need to do a better job versus doing a full-on research study.
Is it possible that the same person filled out that survey all 3 times, or if they fill out the survey once, are they kind of like not receiving future?
I believe the vendor controls for that. I can get more details on that for you, but I do know that they're looking to get a different sample every time.
Anyone else? Very good. All right.
All right. So the strategic plan officially kicked off October 1st, so we are in our first month. The city manager personally took the strategic plan and our fiscal year 25 budget out to all employees. He went to each department, and he also held some additional sessions for those that may not have been here the day that he visited their department. Staff were given, and you each have one of these up there, the staff handbook version of the strategic plan. And moving forward, all of our new staff received this during orientation, along with an explanation of what the strategic plan is and how they play a key role in it. So the staff one, as you can see, really focuses on timelines, responsible parties, and laying out those strategies and definitions for them, as well as QR codes throughout if they want to get to the full version. We also created a citizen version of the strategic plan, so that's the smaller one that you have up there. We've already distributed this to a few groups, so our City University class, the Chamber's Leadership Winter Haven class, the Chamber Board of Directors, Winter Haven Economic Development Council Board of Directors, and a few others have already received it. We do have the State of the City coming up November 7th at the Ritz, and everyone that attends that will receive this. Additionally, Action Strategy 6.3.4, right out of the strategic plan, outlines a new community outreach program that is launching in this fiscal year. And in that particular program, we'll be working to get out to every single quadrant, all 4 quadrants, probably multiple times of the city, to really meet people where they are. We'll go to them instead of asking them to come to us, and this is part of what we will take and make sure it's in all of their hands. So just making sure that our community has it and they know what our priorities are over the next 5 years. In addition to that, we have a transparency dashboard on the website. We're going to pull it up for you real quick and scroll through it. Little disclaimer, this will update the second week of November. So all of these that you're seeing right now are fiscal year 24 numbers, right? The year that just ended. So the first set of data aligned with the new strategic plan will come out in the first week of November, and this will update to have all the new strategic plan goals and strategies, and all of these metrics then back aligned to those strategies. But this is on the website, and it will stay there, and you'll be able to see, everyone will be able to see those performance metric updates as they come in.
Would it make sense to put this on Access Winter Haven app, a link there to navigate back to that?
We can do that. We can put it right there on the home of the app. Make that happen.
And this is something we've never done this before. We've never had this much transparency out there with this type of information. So again, just trying to be as open to our citizens as we can. I'm going to ask our CFO, CJ Scott, to give you a little insight into a new tool that we just launched in the last 30 days.
Yeah. So first, a little bit about the budget. Seems like a lot has happened since we approved the budget. The GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, established the Distinguished Budget Award for exceptional budgets, and we have received that budget, the exceptional budget, for the last 31 years, and a big thank you to Cal Bowen for making that happen. Last year, we also received special recognition for our strategies and goals. Now, how does the GFOA evaluate the budgets? Well, their criteria is based on best practices. And when the budget award originally started, they had 9 rating factors. Now they have 25, and here's just a few of them. But we align our budget book with those best practices. So, as you can guess, we go above and beyond the basic criteria, 'cause that's the way our city rolls. With accounts, we provide a lot of detailed information, especially like capital accounts, machinery and equipment, and capital improvements. Debt schedules, we have over 10 years of debt schedules. And then for FTEs, we provide over 3 years, and we include pay grades along with pay rates. Now, the only downside to this is our budget book is 500 pages, and that's a little bit of a challenge to read. So we created the budget in brief, and I know you all have received this.
Should be a copy at the
Yeah.
dais for each of you of the budget in brief.
So this is an awesome document that captures the essence of our budget book. It shows the budget. We're close to $300 million. Our millage hasn't gone up since 2018. Actually, it went down in 2022. It shows the critical needs of our city: public safety, clean drinking water, safe roads. It really captures everything, and I like on the last page the FTEs. I do want to say we rolled this out to the CityU, and I believe we had one of the most popular presentations. And I don't think it was us, it was the budget in brief. And one of the attendees said, what are you going to read, the budget book, or are you going to take a look at the budget in brief? And you have all that information there. I also want to say a big thank you to the city manager and Katrina Hill, because when we create the way finance created it, it looked like a kindergarten clipboard, and by the time they got done with it, it was a comprehensive, really attractive document.
And Commissioners, this is intended that we can give this to any citizen, any business, anybody that's out there. We can make sure you all have copies of it. It's going to be, it's on the website. This is, you want to know about government finances in Winter Haven for 24-25, this is all you need to look at. If you want to dig deeper, if there's some really burning issue you want to get into, we can direct you right to the full budget book. And on that back page, there's a QR code. Again, scan that with your phone, and it's going to take you right to it. So this is something that we'll make available. If you are going out to speak to a group and you want copies of this, we'll make sure that you have this as well as that citizen version of the strategic plan to take with you. Again, I look at these as somewhat of our committal contracts back to the community that we serve.
Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is our credit rating. Just like an individual has a credit score, the city has a credit rating. There are three rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, S&P, and Fitch. We have contracted with Fitch and S&P. What are they looking at when they're rating our city? The debt level, financial condition, we want to be financially healthy. Debt security, we have the funds to pay off that debt. Economic and demographic profile, we have no control over that, but they're looking at education, they're looking at income, they're looking at race. So that's one factor we can't control. And then management, if there's a high turnover in management, that raises a red flag. So how are we doing? Well, in the past 2 years, we've received 2 promotions. Fitch, we went just recently from a AA negative to a AA positive. S&P last year, we went from a AA negative to AA stable. And then with utilities, we went from a AA negative to AA stable. And let me show you. So what does that mean? We are in the high grade area, and the better your rating, when you go out to borrow funds, it helps with lowering that borrowing cost. So we have done really well. Any questions on the credit rating?
And those were just done in September timeframe. We call that the Fitch Ratings conferences that they do with us. There's a tremendous amount of information that the finance department, along with Gary Hubbard, Gary's done a great job on this on the utility side. We are right where we need to be in that area. If we could get to AA plus and have positive outlooks, that's even better. The problem with getting to that AAA is to maintain that AAA is extremely difficult, and at some point you're going to slip backwards. And I almost say you're better to be a strong number 2 category in that with a lot of opportunity to maintain it versus being at the top of the list and have a lot of opportunity to see it drop.
And the last thing I have is the RFQ for depository services. So we bank with a nationwide corporate bank for our banking services, and that's fine. But we also have $6 million in customer utility deposits, and we don't get interest on that, and that's per Florida statute. So we would like to take that $6 million, we went out for an RFQ, and invest it in a local bank. And our whole philosophy is exceptionally local, where we embrace and support our local community. So the intent of this is depositing funds in a local bank will help us support the local economy. One more slide. The expectation, the local bank will invest a portion of the deposits in the community, which can contribute to the growth and development of our area. Local banks also have a better understanding of local economic conditions and may be better equipped to provide financial solutions tailored to the community needs. So right now, we have a selection committee. They will look at the responses, and we'll move on from there.
And that will come back before the city commission for final action at some point in the next probably 30 to 60 days.
I just have a question about local. So when you say local, are you They just have to have a physical presence in Winter Haven.
They have to be
or
headquartered in.
Local, because there are banks that are really local,
Yeah.
and there are banks.
So there's a lot of criteria that's outlined within that RFQ. We researched similar requests for qualifications and proposals from a number of other cities to craft that. And you got to, I don't know how many banks in Winter Haven specifically, but they're not necessarily headquartered. In that's the case, I'll just speak freely, we bank with Truist, which is not a local bank, and certainly any benefit there is that comes off of that $6 million in non-interest-bearing deposits, that goes back to that bank, and they can, use that as leverage in whatever community they want, most likely back in where they're headquartered. So we look for banks that were headquartered specifically within Polk County, and use that as the underlying approach there.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think that would be certainly a way forward, as it relates to, banks that are, local, in the sense that they're headquartered here in Polk County. We have several, but also we have credit unions as well, so my wife would want me to say that.
Okay.
But, that have been in the community for a long
Noted.
time.
Noted. And I can, it's our local banks that get involved in things, in the community. They're helping with a number of different projects and initiatives to benefit the community, and it just makes good sense there. Last thing we want to talk about this evening, Commissioners, just from a responsible government, big piece of responsible government, as you may recall from that first slide, is our care for our employees and our retention, really what we're doing to fill vacancies and address the retirement of people as that comes along. And so Sean Dykes can give you a quick update on our efforts to recruit a new fire chief. I shared with you that Fire Chief Sonny Emery will be retiring at the end of January after a very long and decorated career here with the city. And so just in advance of that and not waiting until someone's gone before we try and fill the seat, this is where we are.
Good evening. I just wanted to walk you through kind of the processes and schedule that we have in place in recruiting our newest or our new fire chief. With the assistance of our communications team, we launched off a marketing brochure, which you should have at your seats. We identified professional industry sites which to recruit with and have accepted applications and resumes through the 17th of this month. Since then, we have reviewed those applications, and we are set to begin our first round of Zoom interviews this week. Our second round of scheduled interviews are scheduled for the week of November 4th, and that will consist of some community stakeholders, peers from the leadership team, members of the fire department, and professionals from the fire industry. Our third and possible final round of interviews for this position will be with our city managers and are expected to take place the week of November 11th or the 18th, depending on timing. As our candidate listing is narrowed down, background screenings and verification of the information provided will be checked and verified. We anticipate the selected candidate to join us the first part of January of 2025, which will allow some time with the current chief for a smooth transition. If for some reason someone is not selected, this does not occur, we're confident that Assistant City Manager Charlie Bird will continue to keep us afloat and guide the department as needed as we find the right candidate for this position.
So Commissioners, this is the same process we've used for, I think, every department director that we've hired on over the past probably, I don't know, Gary, how long have you been here? 5 years now? Six and a half, and seems like just yesterday. And so we've used this process of panel interviews and stakeholders and an assessment center that we run. I'm excited about the process. Like I said, we're starting Zoom interviews tomorrow, is that first wave, and we'll narrow that down and get to this next phase. But this is how Vance came to be a member of our team. This is how MJ was selected, CJ, Gary, Troy, Brittany. The whole process of what we do there is Julie Adams went through this. This is Katrina was put through the ringer. Fortunately, you don't do this for city managers, but we're excited about this, and I feel confident we will have a fire chief come early January and have that smooth transition and be ready to roll. Last thing I want to just share with you, and Charlie, are you going to speak on the community safety piece, or would you like me to do that for the next one? He's giving me the look, so I'll go ahead and talk about it. So in 2 weeks, we'll be back to the first agenda review for the month of November, and we'll do an update on our community safety pillar there. What I can tell you to expect that evening is some updates on cybersecurity from HIP, some updates on what we're doing with our lead and copper rule compliance, which pertains to water safety, and folks from Gary Hubbard's department will be here to speak on that. We also intend to bring to you a demonstration that evening on brand new technology that we have launched within the police department that involves virtual reality training for the proficiency of our officers in using newly deployed TASER units. And this is quite fascinating how this works, and the training that they go through will demonstrate that right here on the floor. And you'll get to see that on your screens and see exactly what the officers see when they're encountering this. So pretty exciting stuff. So with that, that's our update for this month on responsible government.
All right, thank you, T.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have no developments of notes. Then we have the minutes. Now we're to the ordinance's second readings. We've reviewed these once, so are there any changes?
The only thing I would say is that on items, on ordinance 2430 and 31, those were heard by the City Commission, I believe, back in August, and they were transmitted to the Department of Commerce. They were of a magnitude that required that transmittal, and so that's why they are delayed in getting back to you. Normally, they're 2 weeks apart because we had to wait for the feedback from Department of Commerce on those. So then there was no comments received from Department of Commerce, DEP, FDOT, or any of the other agencies at the state level that review that.
Okay. What about 45 and 46?
No changes since the last, since 2 weeks ago when you heard this.
47 and 48?
No changes on 47. Item 48, this is again where we're establishing the levels of service standards on our sanitary sewer sub-elements, and that one again had to be transmitted to the Department of Commerce, and they have again issued their what we call an ORC report, objections, recommendations, corrections or changes, and there was no comments from any of the state agencies on that. So it is ready for approval.
Okay, and then we have the consent agenda, the Rowdy Gaines.
This is an exciting item to bring forward to you. So we had entered into a CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk contract with RADA Construction in March of 2024 for the renovations of Rowdy Gaines Pool. They have submitted a scope of work that includes the renovation of the pump and filtration chemical systems, the pool deck renovation and some expansion there, the pool deck perimeter drainage improvements, a new liner in the main pool, as well as all the contingency bonds and overhead fees and things that go with that. This is in line with the $2 million budget that we have. There are two actual items here. One is for the approval of that GMP from RADA, which is at $1,618,671, and a amendment to our scope of services with a design team, which is Wright Pierce, for limited construction services. At the end of the day, the total project comes out to $1,999,637, And again, it's a budget of 2 million, so we are within budget. That project is slated to begin. Adam, when do you think you'll actually start on that? December 2nd, so we'll be out of the high school swim season. Allows us to do all that work during the cooler months when the pool has less activity in it. And so we'll work to get that done as quickly as possible. RADA, as you know, is already mobilized on site as they're doing the Chain of Lakes Park Phase 2 project.
Chief,
Ma'am.
Yes.
will this pool like be brand new, no leaks, no whatever?
Well, there shouldn't be any leaks now. This is the biggest issue that we're dealing with on this system is we're dealing with filtration and chemical application systems that were installed in 2002, so we're 22 years old on that. We're still using pelletized or briquette-style chlorine product, which has a lot of byproduct with it, you know, that bonding agents and stuff that go into it. That creates some issues for the filtration. This new system will be on a liquid chlorine system, much easier to work with, much less expense to that. Operationally, we'll see some savings there. They are replacing the pool liner on the main pool. If there is an opportunity for us, and this is something I'm going to look at over the next 2 weeks, if I can identify the funds to also do the diving well liner at that time, I'd like to go ahead and do that. That's estimated. If we do it separately, it probably lasts us another 2 to 5 years is what staff projects. Costs us about $150,000 to do it then. We could probably do it for about $130,000 now. So I'll work with finance to see if we can take care of that. At that point, everything out there is brand new, and you should have realistically no less than a 15-plus year window on those liners, and everything else should be good to go. We're much better than we were in 2002, Commissioner Mercer, when we were
I know the problems.
losing an
at that
awful lot of
time.
water.
What else? 10B?
10B, MJ's going to give a quick summary on this one.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. So the Department of Energy has a block grant program that is focused on energy efficiency. So similar in community development block grants where there's an allocation based on the size of your community. So the city has an allocation of $76,800, but we still have to apply for that like a grant and meet a certain set of criteria. And it's kind of a narrow group of what those criteria for something eligible would be. So after reviewing it, we think that a purchase of an electric vehicle to be used for microtransit in the downtown CRAs it's probably a qualifying purchase. So that is what we are putting in an application for. We talked about that during our strategic planning session, and that actually aligns strategy 3.2.1 says to evaluate, implement, enhance mass transit and microtransit services, assets, and policies. So this falls right in line with that. There's a picture of it there. It's what we're looking at is what's called a GEM car. Very similar. We have one of these vehicles now within the city's operations, but it would be operated by a third party most likely and used as like a microtransit. So if you guys have seen the Squeeze in Lakeland or in Lake Wales, it'd be very, very similar type operation, but using an EV vehicle instead of a gas vehicle that would be paid for through this block grant program. So that is what we're just seeking approval to go ahead and submit that application for that.
So basically, it would be to purchase this vehicle,
Yes, sir. Yeah, two of them.
and then the operation of it, will it be through?
There's a couple third-party vendors we've talked to. Citrus Connection is one. There are some other options as well that we would use.
Is it going to be blue?
I think they come in white standard.
We'll make it
We'll
whatever
make it
color the
nice.
commission wants.
Yes.
You need to have that color that stands out.
Yes.
I would think you could get them wrapped.
Yeah, I think that's actually what we had talked about was potentially wrapping them.
Put an orange roof on that and have an orange and blue one, that would be
I
pretty
ain't
nice.
talking about But let me say this, too. The purchase would take place later. This is just to apply for that grant allocation and see if it's something that they deem eligible.
How much are the vehicles?
Individually, I don't think we have that in the fact sheet here, but it's $76,000, so it'd be about $78,000 for both of them.
For both of them?
For both of them, yes, sir. Yep.
Are they climate control? Is there air conditioning?
No, they're not. So it's like a very nice golf cart, maybe is a good way to
It
put
looks
it.
like a
Yeah.
souped-up golf
It
cart.
is,
Street
but
legal.
it is street legal, yeah. There's some stuff that makes it different from a golf
There are
cart.
windows that go up.
Yes, sir. The one that we'd spec'd out had doors on it. That way it could be used during inclement weather.
The top of it, is it for putting items or something on top of it?
I think in that picture, the top of it has a solar panel on it. We would just charge them most likely.
It is all electric? though?
It is all electric, yes, sir, yeah.
We have one of these now that the downtown CRA purchased.
Gotcha.
We probably need to do a better job of putting that in some of our parades. So instead of riding on the mule every time, maybe you ride in a gem car. I don't know, we'll explore that and see how we can get some greater publicity of it.
All right,
Thanks.
okay, 10C,
So this is the purchase of 3 grapple trucks. These are the big claw trucks that we're using for debris collection. We use for standard collection of landscape materials and other types of junk and waste throughout the year. 2 of these are replacements for vehicles we have that are getting quite long in the tooth, and one of them is an additional vehicle. We haven't added a vehicle to that fleet in quite some time, and as the community continues to grow, the need for that has grown as well. And all of that is budgeted for within this year's budget.
And that's just, we're asking for a ratification. These are detailed in the budget, which, per our procurement policy, allows for myself to sign off on making those purchases because they're basically approved at the time that the budget's approved. But I wanted to bring this back to you. One, to show you that we're following through on those purchases. These will help us also with our debris management efforts. Brittany, do you know what the turnaround time to actually take delivery on these would be?
We issued them a letter of intent, and they believe they can deliver in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So within the month, we'll have these trucks and for, again, trying to maintain our debris management. That'll help.
How many do we have in the fleet?
Brittany, can you go to the podium? Question is, how many do we have within the fleet now?
We currently have 18 total or 15 total within the fleet at the moment. Some of those are spares, and some of them belong to our streets operation as well as our parks operation, and they are moved around as needed, but we have 15 total at the moment.
Is there a little difference in the design from the newer, from the older?
No, these are typically standard. There are a few that a few years ago we bought that had a route assist component on them. They have a small side edge where they can load things that they may not need to actually bring the claw out for. So that allowed them to load more efficiently in some of our newer neighborhoods that maybe didn't have as much debris and then dump into the body.
Brittany, will there be one of these at the Hands on Haven event?
Right now, they're all picking up debris, so we did not
Probably
anticipate
good reason
bringing
not to
one
be
to
there. Okay.
Hands on Haven. That's where our focus is at the
Okay.
moment.
Good reason not to.
in the special meeting that we had yesterday, stated that you were getting the debris. What about the furniture and junk? Because our policy, basically, according to what I've been told, is that you have to call to get those items picked up.
Yes.
Well, in our all around town, I see it all around town that there's just a lot of junk, for the lack of a better term.
Yes, sir. We're aware. So because of Hurricane Milton and coming through, the city as well as the county has shifted to only collecting the hurricane debris, and those are phased based off of guidelines set by FEMA for collection. So the first phase is the actual debris collection. Second phase comes into bagged brush, and then moving into that construction debris as well as household furniture. So that is how the process we're moving at the moment. But when we are not in a debris collection state, collecting from a storm, it is that you have to schedule handle your bulk collection. We drive a set route for all of our horticultural waste, but the debris collection is an à la carte service, and that the residents need to call and schedule that. So we aren't driving around aimlessly searching for debris.
So Brittany, for clarification, I think to the mayor's question, you are picking up the non-bagged horticulture waste now, and that is a public health directive, and FEMA recognizes that. Then you'll run the same routes to pick up the bagged leaves and twigs and all that stuff. And then the third run that you do through there with county contractors as well is on household goods, white goods, those types of things. And they do not need to call in for that. It
No,
will
they
just
do
be
not
part
need
of
to
the
call
regular
in
route.
for that. Once our debris, our hauling contracts come to a close and everybody has said everything from Milton has been collected, we will resume our scheduled-based bulk collection services.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, because I'm just,
Yeah.
whether or not we were going to just start picking those items up without people calling, because people are not calling.
Yeah.
We'll make a pass at those before we go back to normal operations.
I've seen stuff that has been out for a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, and that's a problem we run into. In fact, we were scheduled to meet in the last 2 weeks, and the hurricane kind of put a kibosh on this, was that not everybody calls that in.
Right,
You know,
they don't.
somebody gets evicted, and the whole household basically throws up at the side of the road, it looks like. Our drivers are directed to make note of that. And one of the things that I'm working a strategy with code compliance and Public Works now is, when we have that, how do we tackle that faster? How do we mitigate that issue, and who gets billed for that? Because if somebody evicts somebody, they just take all their stuff and they stick it at the side of the road, and a lot of times that's a full truckload.
Yes.
They've never called it in, and then the people in that neighborhood are kind of stuck. The best eyes we have on that is our folks that are out driving around, whether that be right now it's mainly within our Public Works Department and the solid waste workers that are running those routes. But I think one of our strategies coming out of this meeting I'll be having with code compliance and others is really making that a priority for all of our people that are on the streets. That if you see excessive piles, make note of it and get that to Public Works so that then they can follow up directly with that property owner.
The only problem, T, is that even if that's done and you try to address it, you clear it, and I'm just talking hands-on experience in my neighborhood. We erected the sign, cleared it, it stayed clear for maybe 3 weeks, and then somebody
Yep.
dumped again.
Yep, that's the illegal dumping.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's on our radar as well, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
And I
it's,
think,
I think that's a citywide problem that and I don't know the answer to it, but.
If there's an
Well,
answer,
we used
will
to,
find it.
at one time, we used to pick up furniture and stuff without people calling.
We did, and we would run, and again, that was a time when we were running with about 13,000 homes that we were servicing, and we're well over 20,000 homes now. And what ends up happening is you would have those trucks, they're constantly running the route, and it's the least efficient way for us to do that. And it was not consistent with what our code calls for either in terms of how we pick up junk. So using an on-demand service helps ensure that we're getting those areas. We're not putting additional wear and tear on the vehicles or unnecessarily wasting fuel in the process, and we can really be more responsive to the resident. Those are changes we've made over the past few years, and really that came out of what necessitated that. Just a little kind of looking back over it was coming out of COVID. We didn't have the manpower to get it done. We were scrambling like everybody else for drivers and collectors, and the garbage has to be picked up. The household garbage is the number one priority, because that truly becomes the most critical public health and safety issue. So that's when we made that change to better align with our code. And it's worked well. I think that overall, it's an easy process. That's why we have the Access Winter Haven originally, was so that people could do that right from their phone. I've got junk to be picked up, you plug it in, it goes straight to our system. So we will get it up. We do just have to get all this, the horticulture debris up first.
One of the, Mayor,
Go ahead.
one of the things that we assume is that everybody uses some form of, Facebook or, some form of media like that. There are people out there that still don't do that. And so if an employee or somebody sees that, could they, like write down the address and then maybe have someone, as you see the pile, leave a hanger, a door hanger, or something on the door, you have to call it in or something like that.
Yeah, and it may be that the drivers that are out there, maybe a side loader that sees it, Commissioner Mercer, and they wouldn't necessarily know if that pile's been called in, and so that's why getting the address and bringing it back to the office, and then from the office, we can make contact with that resident to get that squared up.
And so one of the things we do is these come in on Access Winter Haven or our drivers report them. Our office staff is reaching out to the account holder to let them know that that wasn't scheduled collection, but we will be scheduling it in the day that it will be scheduled. We also are putting a mailer into the mail as soon as we talk to those people, because we understand that not everybody is on social media. We've added that to the bills, so if anybody is looking at their bills, I know we've gone digital, so not as many people are reviewing those as of late. And then one of the additional communication pieces, we are working on a postcard, if you will, to notify residents that the City of Winter Haven is still recycling, as well as about that bulk schedule. And that the plan is for that to go out as we are completing our Hurricane Milton cleanup. So that will be just kind of fresh on their minds at that moment.
Thank you.
So you would, and I've mentioned this before, but you would think that the garbage drivers could have a iPad in there and just a pin drop system. So, if this street's got 50 pins on it, that's a high volume street to tackle. My question is, we ran into this in previous storms, but the yard waste that's bagged is now in many cases, on top of the tree limbs and everything else. And so in previous storms, that got passed by, it wasn't picked up. Are we passing that by again? Like, I know we've marketed, to the nth degree, separate your items, do this, do that. But I'm just wondering, are we getting out and throwing the bags to the side, or?
Right now, due to the sheer volume of debris that we're collecting, if there's bags or commingled junk within the pile, we're not collecting those, and we're notating those for the second round of collection, because we have no disposal site unless we want to pay to take it into the landfill. The disposal site that we have here in Winter Haven will not allow us to bring any bagged or commingled materials in.
And what we ended up doing in Hurricane Ian was actually, we collected all of that debris that was in bags, and we used additional labor to open all those bags and create another pile, and then transfer that pile. And again, it's frustrating that you have to do that. I don't know how we better educate on this is the challenge of it, and it's not just here. I mean, that's an everywhere problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. I've got property people they put their stuff, they just mix it all up on my property and just keep going. But at any rate, it's what we have to deal with. All right, any other questions? Okay, so 10D.
This is just simple travel and training. This is just so I could share the commission. I'm requesting permission to travel to an ICMA Local Government Reimagined Conference. This is later in at the end of February. An opportunity to engage with some other city managers and find out some innovation strategies. In addition to that conference, what I intend to do during my travel there is to spend some time with the folks in Denver and learn from them on what they're doing with some of their housing initiatives and homeless efforts. Specifically, they've got a net zero homeless initiative that pertains to veterans, and like to see if I can bring some more of that back.
Okay. All right, 16A, B, and C, they're all yours.
So this is real quick. I'm not going to waste your time with this evening, but I just want to give you this information. This is, normally I provide you a monthly or a quarterly update in September, and with the hurricane and some other issues that we were tackling at that time, had not had a chance to get this before you. I won't go through this, but this just gives you some of the highlights of what occurred in the period of June, July, and August. I'm sorry, yeah, July, August, and September. I apologize. So the July, August, September 24. So that is just for your use as you see fit. 16B, just want to point out that the Grant and Aid Application Review Committee, Dr. Steve Negley has stepped down from that. He served his 3 years on that committee, and due to some personal matters and needing to address some family issues, he is having to free up some time for that. So he has submitted his request to not be reappointed. Dr. Negley was appointed, from our records, what we've reviewed, was appointed by Commissioner J.P. Powell at the time. That seat is now filled by Commissioner Dollison, so we are requesting that Commissioner Dollison identify someone to fill that seat and present that to us so we can do the necessary efforts to vet that person out to be on that board. So Commissioner, if you would, it's your pleasure, give some consideration for someone to represent you and your ideals on that committee. The only thing that we ask is that they not be affiliated with any of the nonprofits that would apply for funding through us, because that would create a conflict of interest. So if you can just share that, if you want to share that with me, we'll begin that process, and then we'll bring that back to the City Commission for actual approval to appoint them. The last item I have is, this is just for some logistic consideration. I want to make sure that as we look at the November calendars, and we're just trying to make sure we are prepared for any public notices that we do for planning commission-related items that would come to the City Commission. Your commission meetings in November are November 11th and November 12th. November 11th has been moved to November 11th has been moved to November 12th, which is due to the Veterans Day holiday, and that is per charter, that when the meeting falls on a holiday, we go to the next Tuesday. So that is all set. November 25th is the Monday prior to Thanksgiving. We have not traditionally canceled that meeting, and I'm not requesting that you cancel. I just would like the affirmation that we will meet on that evening so that we can plan accordingly as we begin establishing agenda items for those meetings. I think the only time we've had cancellations during my tenure here has been on the agenda review, if it happened to fall on that Wednesday before actual Thanksgiving Day, but we have not canceled the meeting itself if it was on that Monday.
We typically cancel the last meeting in December.
That is correct, yeah.
We have meetings on this one, that's
Yep.
fine with me. If you're asking, or you,
I'm just asking, I just want confirmation that we will meet on the 25th.
Yeah.
Okay. And that meeting in December, Commissioner Dancer, in response to your comment, that would be on December 23rd.
Yeah.
So we would cancel that meeting. Is
Yeah.
that the consensus?
Yes.
And the agenda review on the 18th.
Yes, sir. We will take action to make sure that's noted as such. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor, I got two things I want to bring up,
Yes.
just real quick. For what it's worth, Andy Ireland just passed away. And I don't know if Andy used to be our mayor or if he was, I know he's a city commissioner, but if he's we probably ought to fly the flag at half-mast if he was mayor.
We will,
don't know if he was
we'll
leaving
research the
commission.
wall before we
Yeah.
leave tonight.
So anyway, he just passed away. And the other thing is, I'm just asking this to the commission and T, if y'all felt compelled or thought it might be a good idea to do a proclamation for Winter Haven High School for all they did during the the hurricane, opening up their building for everybody to stay in and made it a relief center and all that. I mean, we can do it or not. I'm just putting it out there because sometimes it's nice to be recognized by us. And they did, open the building up for the community to crash there during the hurricane. And it just might be nice to have Gina come in and recognize her and do a proclamation or something, a thank you kind of a deal. I'm just throwing it out there for what it's worth, and see what y'all think.
Is that the school or the county? I mean, so.
Well, it's the school. I mean, we would probably just thank Gina, I would think, as principal, and.
Staff from the school still works
Yeah,
the site when that happens. There's staff from the
and
school.
it was pretty full. I mean, it wasn't packed, but it was pretty full, and so it was like, it's a burden on them, and it's just, sometimes it's nice to be recognized with a thank you, that's all.
I think their count was like 300 or 400 people
Yeah.
in that ballpark.
It's pretty full, so.
Yeah.
And it's an inconvenience, and be nice to just thank them.
We can do whatever the commission wishes. The designation of the shelters comes from it's in coordination between the superintendent and the Polk County Emergency Management Director as to how many schools they need to open up. And, but certainly we had 2 schools here in Winter Haven High School and Chain Lakes Elementary were both used
We're
as
gonna do both of
shelters.
them,
So,
Just thank them both, and
Yeah.
tell them we appreciate their efforts.
Whatever's appropriate.
we can certainly do that, and have that ready for you. It'd probably be at the first meeting in November. And I also wanted to mention, I'm glad you mentioned resolution or proclamation there. We will have a fluoride item ready for you. Apologize that that's not ready for Monday. We just need a little bit more time between the 2 meetings to turn that around. City Attorney, myself, Gary Hubbard, and others are working on that, and I expect that to be ready for you at your first meeting in November as well for your consideration.
I see Gary in the back. Does he concur with our thoughts, or do you have any thoughts on fluoride, Gary? Because we're getting ready to kick it out. Bad idea, good idea? What do you know about fluoride?
Really the fluoride issue is a community decision. Personally, me personally speaking, the less chemicals that we add to the water, I feel better. So I am supportive.
Okay, thank you.
We have asked the Department of Health, just so you know, we've reached out. I presume Gary had someone at his staff reach out
Okay.
to see if they have a viewpoint on that issue. I've done some research myself that I've shared with staff that it's a very controversial, it can be very, very controversial. Was recently done in Collier County and in Pinellas County about a decade ago. It was very, very controversial.
Okay.
They took it off and then they put it back on again because elected officials got voted out of office because of it.
Fair enough.
So, you have the information on Andy Ireland's service and?
Yes, he's getting buried at Christ Community Church. I just got a text. Let me see if I can find it for you. His son texted me.
Brad, I just pulled up his obituary
Yeah, you got it?
in the newspaper and it says a service will be held on Saturday, November 16th at 2024 at 11 o'clock a.m. at Christ Community Church
Christ Community, that's out
in Overlook Drive.
out past,
Yeah,
right in between the
Overlook.
Catholic Church on Overlook Drive
Yeah.
there.
All right.
But I think he was a mayor, don't you? Did you ever serve with him? Just tease him, I know that much. Wasn't he a mayor at one point? I thought he was. Anyway.
All right. Any reports? Emergency matters not received for the agenda? Motion to adjourn.